Okay, welcome back. I'm now going to continue my 32 and 32 with the Florida Panthers. And as I always do, I like to display the home jersey and the reverse retro. And I got to say, I'm a huge fan of this reverse retro. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just like the light blue and the sun and the tree combination. And obviously, we have the hockey stick, of course. But I got to say, I'm a huge fan of this reverse retro. It takes a lot to really impress me when it comes to jerseys and all that other jazz. But yeah, again, I don't like to give any scores when it comes to jerseys. But honestly, if I had to rate this out of 10, it'd be a 10. I don't know why I find this jersey so fascinating, but it looks so clean and so refreshing and new compared to having their Panther logo, which they have normally done in the past. So a huge fan, and whoever came up with this idea, I can't give them enough props. So the past season was one of the probably the biggest miraculous, unbelievable. Like there's just so many different euphemisms I could use, but it was an outstanding season to say the least. Now it wasn't necessarily a cakewalk, easy to get into the postseason after the 2022 campaign when they won the President's Trophy. There was such high expectation for this Florida Panthers to be as successful as they were this past season, and they struggled to say the least. But they just narrowly squeaked into that last playoff spot. If they didn't win the last game or two, Pittsburgh ultimately would have taken over that last wild card spot. But they managed to squeeze it in. It wasn't easy and it wasn't pretty, but like I said, they managed to get in. And what a unbelievable run that they did have. So before I get onto that playoff run, I'll just go over their records. They finished with 42 wins, 32 regulation losses, and 8 overtime/shootout losses for 92 points. And then they had, like I said, they had the last wild card spot in the Eastern Conference. They would go on to play the then President's Trophy winners in the Boston Bruins. And after the first few games, it looked like this season might be coming to an end pretty quick because, yeah, they got the split in Boston, but then when they went back for games 3 and 4 uh, at home, they lost both those contests, went back into Boston for do or die game 5. They pulled off a huge victory against the Bruins, and then they just kept rolling. They got game 6 at home. They went back into TD Garden, and they won on the road in overtime. And they clinched their spot into the second round of the playoffs, where they would meet the Toronto Maple Leafs. And they made that series look a lot easier than it should have, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. They went up 3-0 in that series. Toronto would get the game 4 victory in Florida. And then when the game went back for game 5 in Toronto, the Panthers once again took overtime, but they ended up knocking off the Leafs in the second round of the playoffs. And then they advanced to the Eastern Conference Final, where they would play the Carolina Hurricanes. And I'll never forget that game 1. I think it was went to like 4 overtimes. It almost went to 5. And then obviously Kachuk, the man you see on your screen, ended that series. I believe he got the game winner in both game 1 and 2, if I'm not mistaken. And then when they went back to Florida, they took care of business in games 3 and 4, respectively, advancing to the Stanley Cup final for the second time in their franchise. The first time was back in 95-96, and they got swept by the Colorado Avalanche. Then they would play the Vegas Golden Knights this time. The only good news is they didn't get swept, but they were out in 5 games. So a miraculous run, a Cinderella run for the ages. If I'm going to be completely honest with you, this team just did the impossible. But they always believed in themselves, and up until the Cup final, they looked like they were going to be the favorites going forward. But like I said, unfortunately, all good things do come to an end. So I'll go over a few of the key off-season signings that they have done so far, and I'll look at their roster and see who is still there, who has yet to sign, or has signed elsewhere. So they have brought in defensemen from the New York Rangers, Mikko Mikola, if I am pronouncing his name, Mikko Mikola. He split last season with the St. Louis Blues and the New York Rangers. So he has now signed with the Florida Panthers for how long? Where is the contract? He was signed for 3 seasons. They brought in Mike Riley, another defenseman, and he came over from the Boston Bruins. Oh, he played with he was with Boston, but he played for their AHL team as well. So he could add a little bit of depth on that on the defensive side of things. And then they've gotten a few other signings as well. Just got to scroll. Um, they brought in defenseman Kulikov, Dmitry Kulikov, and where did he play last year? Oh, he played with the Ducks before being traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and he actually has played with the Florida Panthers. So it's going to be his second stint with the team. And I'll take a look and see about the other signings that they have done thus far. So probably one of the biggest names out there, Oliver Ekman-Larsson's contract got bought out by the Vancouver Canucks, so he has joined on a one-year deal with the Florida Panthers. They brought in goaltender Alex Stolarz. I believe he last played with the Anaheim Ducks just a season ago. And they've also brought in forward Kevin Steelan from the Winnipeg Jets on a one-year contract. And I'll see what else they have done thus far. They brought in Evan Rodriguez. He played last year with the Colorado Avalanche. He has signed a 4-year deal with the Florida Panthers. And then just a couple other signings. They brought in Gary Mayhew on a 1-year deal. I believe he played last season with the. Oh, I guess he was part of Florida last year. He just played on their AHL affiliate. I thought he was part of a different team, so I apologize for that one. I'm not trying to go and look at every single signing, especially if they're like an AHL affiliate player, and I'm just trying to go with guys that I know for sure should be on the roster full time. And then the last notable signing is a 1-year contract for forward Rasmus Asplund. He has come over from the Nashville Predators. So quite a bit of signing in the state of Florida for the Panthers. But, they need as many pieces as they can if they want to try to stay competitive this upcoming year. So we'll take a look at their rosters. And like I said previously, we'll see who has re-signed and who is still available or who has gone elsewhere. So we'll take a look at their goaltending situation first. So obviously they still have Sergei Bobrovsky. He's still signed for 3 more seasons. Spencer Knight, his contract did expire this past year, but he has signed a 3-year, $4.5 million extension. Alex Lyon has left, and I believe he's signed with, where is it? Oh my gosh, my screen just reloaded, so bear with me here. Where is he? He is signed with the Detroit Red Wings. So Spencer Knight and Sergei Bobrovsky will be their goaltending tandem going forward. So their captain, Alexander Barkov, is signed for 7 more seasons. Sam Bennett is signed for 2 more years. Nick Cousins has 1 more year left to go on his deal. Zach Dalpe, his contract did expire, but he has re-signed 2 years at $775,000. Oh my goodness. Grigori Denisiko has re-signed with the Florida Panthers, I believe on a 1-year deal. Just going to double check. 2-year deals, I do apologize. Anthony Duclair was traded in the offseason to the San Jose Sharks. Aaron Ekblad has 2 more years left to go on his contract. Casey Fitzgerald has signed a 1-year extension with the team. Gustav Forsling still has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Radko Gudas has left Florida and signed with the Anaheim Ducks. Patrick Hornqvist has retired from the NHL. Ryan Lomberg still has 1 more year left to go on his contract, as does Anton Lundell. Eetu Luostarinen has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Josh Mahura, his contract did expire this past season, but he has re-signed on a 1-year, $925,000 deal. Brandon Montour has 1 more year left to go on his contract, as does Sam Reinhart. Giovanni Smith has signed with the San Jose Sharks. Mark Stahl has signed with the Philadelphia Flyers. His brother Eric Stahl is still a free agent, and at 38, it's going to be kind of tough for his NHL career to continue. If he goes anywhere, I'm sure he'll want to try to go on another contending team. but I don't see him having too many more years left. Like I said, being 38 as of now. Matthew Tkachuk, the big trade from last season for this team, has 7 more years left to go on his contract, and Carter Verhaeghe has 2 more years left to go on his contract. Colin White is still a free agent. So I'll pull back the logos and discuss the team's expectations for this upcoming season. Okay, so now I got the logos. Just want to make sure we're centered here. Okay, so coming into this upcoming year, after the miraculous run that they had just a season ago, it'd be hard for them not to try to get into contention. And just like I've said in many of my other videos, I believe it's going to be a split between the Metropolitan and the Atlantic Division. I don't just see 3 teams getting in on one side and 5 getting in on the other side of the playoff picture. So I gotta think that Florida is pretty much on like the cusp. They should get into at least a wild card position. It's obviously going to depend on how the Lightning, the Leafs, and the Bruins play in their division. Obviously, if they finish better than them, then those are like my top 3 teams to be locked in. So for the Florida Panthers, they could be on the wild card spot. But again, this is one of those teams where if they play as poorly as they did for part of last season, this upcoming year, they could watch their season go away pretty quickly. So they're not really necessarily a shoo-in to get into the postseason. They should get into a playoff spot. Like I said, at best case scenario, they could get into a wild card spot, unless the other 3 teams that I mentioned prior to them happen to tank or go on like massive losing streaks. I just truly believe that this is one of those ones that I'm kind of like iffy on. Like they should get in, but I'm not a betting man, and even if I was, I wouldn't like put all my chips on the Florida Panthers because again, there's no gimmies and there's no guarantees when it comes to making the postseason of the NHL. Thank you all for tuning in as always. If you happen to watch through this whole entire clip, and as always, take care.